Good evening. Once again, welcome to Sir Ib's online tutorials and lecture series. Today, we will be discussing on the second part of the topic Introduction to Criminology. In this topic, we will be discussing on matters of crime. Because if you can remember, our discussion on the first part covers on matters of the study of criminology, in which if we define criminology is the body of knowledge regarding crime as a social phenomenon. So basically, we have to discuss matters on crime, its classification, and other aspects on it. To start with, so let us first define the concept of crime since we're the main topic of discussion right now is about crime, so we will be defining what is really crime. Now, crime is being defined by law. Okay, this is the legal concept. This is being defined by law, most specifically our criminal law. It is an act or an omission. So there is a two term here, an act or omission that violates our criminal law. So what does it mean when you talk about an act? Or what does it mean when you talk about an omission? When we talk about an act, that is what we call our physical act, the thing that we do or the thing that we have done or the thing that we perform or anything that we have uh, done physically on that matter that violates a particular law. That is what we call an act. So an act that violates a law is a crime. Second, this is what we call omission. An omission is defined as failure. So failure to perform. So an omission becomes only a crime when we are required by law to perform, and the non performance and our failure of performing what is being required by law is said to be a crime. So, an act becomes a crime when it violates a particular law, and omission becomes a crime when the law requiring us to perform and we fail to perform what is being required by law. So that is what we call an act and omission that violates our criminal law. Now, for that matter, crime, it became a crime because there is a law that punishes it. Okay? That's why I had emphasizes that an act becomes a crime when it violates the law, and omission becomes a crime when there is a law that requires us to perform something. Now, since a crime becomes a law, it goes to and it aligns with the principle of logomacy. And that logomacy principle states that there is no crime when there is no law punishing it. Di ba? There is no crime if we had no criminal law that punishing a particular act or a particular omission. That is why crime becomes a crime, an act becomes a crime, an omission becomes a crime if there is a law that is a criminal law that prohibit it from its performance and requiring a person for a performance of a certain action. That is what we call a logomacy principle. So we cannot call a certain crime, a certain act as a crime unless otherwise there is a law that requires it or there is a law that prohibits it. That is what we call the logomacy principle, aligning with the concept of crime. It's any act or omission that violates a criminal law. Now, crime by element itself, according to the crime anatomy, okay, crime can be committed when these three particular elements exist. Okay, there is crime when these particular elements exist. One of the elements under the crime anatomy is motive. When you talk about motive, that simply the reason why a person committed a crime. What was the particular reason why he had committed that particular crime? It might be by reason of jealousy. It might be by cause or by reason of its revenge on that matter. So those are motive, those are reason why the particular person committed a certain crime. Secondly, there is also crime when the second element also exists, instrumentality. Instrumentality, this is the instrument used, the means that was used in the commission of a crime. For example, he, what was the object, what was the means, what was the instrument used in the commission of a crime. So when the person has the motive of committing a crime, then he has to use a means, he has to use an instrument on how he can commit the crime he is being planning to on that matter. So that's why instrument, it is the object or the means or the implement or the instrument he is doing in order for the commission of a crime. Thirdly, we have opportunity. Opportunity is the situation. If the situation is very conducive for its commission, then basically the crime can be committed. If we allow it to happen, for example, if we fail to lock our doors, leave our homes unattended, if we leave our property unattended on that matter, so we are giving a situation, we are giving opportunity for those motivated offender to commit their motives for that matter. So, for example, somebody wanted to steal or take one's property, and there is one person who fails to who fails to uh, fails to check or it leaves is properly unattended. So that particular person is giving an opportunity, is opening the situation are now very conducive for the commission. So when these three elements exist, definitely there is crime. Okay? On that particular elements, the only thing that we cannot eliminate this one is the motive, because we cannot eliminate basically his reasons or the cause why he committed the crime. But basically, uh, the situation can be, we can eliminate the instrumentality, because there is a law that for example, there is a law prohibiting the use of firearms. So that's one way or another to prevent the use of firearms for the commission of a crime, because that's a measure to prevent the use of that particular instrument for the use of the commission of a crime. And we can also eliminate the opportunity by placing more police officers in the streets, di ba? So we can eliminate the instrumentality, we can eliminate the opportunity, but we cannot eliminate the motive or the reason of somebody from committing crime. At least for that matter, other elements can be eliminated. So, if that matter, when other elements can be eliminated, we can prevent the occurrence of criminality. Now, crime is a generic term. So, when you talk about crime, it's a general term. Okay? So anything that violates a law, a criminal law for that matter, is a crime. However, there is a specific term, and these are the following. So you can call the crime a felony when the violated law is the revised penal code. Okay? Because our criminal law has many parts. We have the revised penal codes, we have the special laws, and the other on that matter. So when RPC is violated, revised penal code or the Act 38 for 15. That's the revised penal code, Act 3815. So when any of those mentioned in the revised penal code are committed, the term is now specifically as felony. When it is a special law, simply there is a Republic Acts, presidential decrees, executive orders. When it is being violated, that the crime is specifically named as an offense. Thirdly, when it violates the ordinance of that particular city or municipality, we can call that particular crime as an infraction. And when the violator is a minor, okay, when it's a minor or it violates the social norms, we can call that particular act as a delinquency or a misdemeanor. So these are four specific terms, but these are all referring to a generic term, a general term, a crime. There was a question previously in the board examination in which the question was an act or omission in violation of the revised penal code. But in the choices, felony was not there, and many get confused on the answer. And some answered offense. I would say it was wrong because you are when you talk about offense, that specific term referring to a special law. So if the specific term was not there, go back to the general term, the generic term. But remember, that is what I am emphasizing a while ago. That these are specific terms. These are specific terms, but all of this is generally termed as a crime. So mean to say, if the specific term was not there, go back with the generic term. Okay. I hope that resolved that matter also for the meantime. Now, let's proceed with the classifications of crime. These are criminological classification. This is not yet the legal classification because crimes are being classified by the legal classifications under the revised penal codes, under the special law. So this is a classification only in the criminological aspects. Now, first classification is acquisitive. Now, when you talk about acquisitive crime is a crime in which the offenders acquire something. So, meaning to say, he committed a crime, and a crime whenever a crime committed is the consequence of the crime committed is that the offender acquires something. For example, for the crime of robbery, for the crime of theft, qualified theft, in which there is something, there's an object being taken by a certain person, and that object and that something is a consequence of the act. That is what we call acquisitive, or the person acquires, may nakuha siyang object or property as a consequence of a criminal act. So in the criminological classification, it is termed as an acquisitive crime. Now, the second one is extinctive. An extinctive is the result is destruction. Okay, the result is destruction. I mean to say, the crime resulted to a destruction of life or a destruction of properties. Just like, for example, killing a person or burning his property. So the result of the act committed is destruction. So we have to look into the result. If the result is that the person acquires something, that's acquisitive. If the end result is destruction, that is what we call an extinctive crime. Next classification is situational. Now, when we talk about situational crime is, I have already mentioned this a while ago, is you are giving a situation that is conducive. I mean to say, you are allowing it for the commission. The situation is very conducive for the commission of the criminal act. For example, wearing of luxurious jewelries while walking in the streets, or going home late at night, or leaving your house unattended without its locking mechanism. So in that particular situation, the situation are opening for a easy commission of the act. That is what we call situational. So we're giving the situation a very conducive situation for an easy commission of a certain crime. Next classification is seasonal. So seasonal, it is the crime are committed for a certain period of the year. There is what we call, there are instances that a particular part of the year that these particular crimes are emerging. That is what we call, for example, in holiday seasons, uh, there are really cases of emerging cases of what we call property crimes. So in that particular period of the year, these particular crimes are doubling its cases or emerging or occurring on this particular time. So holiday seasons, year in seasons, seasons, crimes of properties also increases on that matter. So it might be that particular year, uh, there are many things, di ba? They find it uh, to commit their particular act on that particular period of the year. Next one is episodic. Excuse me. Now, episodic and instant. Now, episodic and instant, this is about time. Okay, this is about time. So when the crime is committed in series, just like for example, those serial killers for that matters who committed a particular crime or acts in longer spaces in time. He committed by this time or maybe the other next time on that matter. So there is a series of acts committed in a longer space. So episode series on that matter. While instant, it is being committed on that particular time only. There's no more subsequent commission of a crime. That's instant crime. It was committed, the act was committed on that particular time only. That what is what we call instant classification of a crime. Episodic series, longer, instant, one time only, or this being committed on that particular time only. Next classification is the static and continuing. Simply, this is about the place. Instant and episodic is about time. While static for that matter is about the place. If the commission involved only in one particular place, that what is what we call static. If the crime is committed in several places, meaning to say there are many places in which the crime is being continuously committed, that is what we call continuing. Okay? One place, static, more places, several places, that's a continuing crime. Next one, we have simple, compound, and complex crime, basically. Now, a simple crime is, we make this very simple. One crime, one act resulting to one crime. So you have committed an act that resulted to a one crime, for example. Uh, just like, for example, taking a property of somebody. That's theft. You have committed an act of taking a property and then it resulted to one crime or one felony. So that's simple crime. You have committed an act that resulted to one felony. Now, second, compound. There is also single act. Okay, there is a single act. However, the single act that you have made produces produces two or more less grave or less grave felony. So you have committed a single act, but the single act committed resulted to or produced into a two or more grave or less grave offenses. For example, throwing a grenade in many person in the public, and upon throwing it, upon explosion, resulted to what is being produced. You have produced two or more less or less grave offenses. Why? You have resulted to a multiple on that matter. It might be it might be homicide, or some get injured. Okay, so there is a crime of homicide. There is a crime of injury, less or less grave injuries for that matter. So your single act of throwing a grenade on the public constituting, producing many or less or two or more grave or less grave offenses. But what you have done is only one single act. That is what we call compound. Your single act being made produces two or more less grave. Common example, throwing a grenade to a public that resulted to homicide or even serious injuries or physical injuries was being committed. Now, complex crime. Now, you have also committed one act, one felony first. Remember, take note of this. That complex crime, the first must be committed first, and that first felony is necessary to commit the other. So, meaning to say, you have first committed that particular act, particular crime, and then subsequently, This is very necessary. There's a term necessary to commit the other. For example, you want to take one's property. Okay, so you want to take one's property. So you enter his vicinity. You enter his house for that matter. So before you can commit the crime of theft, basically you have already committed trespass to dwelling, because basically once you enter a certain property without the consent of the owner, that's trespass to dwelling. So definitely you have committed first trespass to dwelling and then committed then a theft. Okay? Remember, that particular the act you have committed first is necessary to commit the other. Okay, that's one common example for that complex crime. So single, one act, one crime, that's simple. One act resulted to two or more, produces two or more, that's compound. And one act is necessary to commit the other. Take note, necessary to commit the other. The fourth one is what we call special complex. That special complex simply tinatawag yang special complex because that is being required by law. The law already say so. For example, of that special complex, those robbery with homicide, rape with homicide, okay, that is what the law term as a special complex. Why special complex? I said the law already says so. So we cannot more deal with it because it's the law already provides, the law already says so, that when this crime is being committed, that is being referred to or being classified as a special complex. Complex crime, remember, one act is necessary to commit the other. Next one, mala in se and mala prohibita. Simply, mala in se are wrong from the beginning or evil from the beginning. Okay, while mala prohibita, it became wrong because it is being prohibited by law. So the act that was wrong from the beginning, inherently evil from the beginning. For example, killing, taking one's property, even at the earliest time, even there was no law yet being made on that particular time, but killing somebody, taking one's property without his consent was already wrong from the beginning, was inherently evil at the beginning. So we call that particular acts as mala in se crimes, and those under the revised penal code are classified as malainse. Majority, or maybe if not all of the crimes under the revised penal code are malainse, because if you look at it, there are many acts there, there are many crimes that are wrong from the beginning or inherently uh, evil or wrong, inherently evil or wrong from the beginning. Committing murder, crimes against person, and those crimes against property, the crimes against chastity, those are already wrong from the beginning. Mala prohibita, as I said, became wrong because there is a law that prohibits it. Common example, the use of firearms. The use of firearms is only wrong, or it became wrong if, for that matter, the person possessing a firearm do not have a license, because the law said without the license, using or possessing firearm is wrong. So definitely it became a wrong because there is a law that prohibits the use of firearm without a particular license. Another example, driving. The law prohibits a certain person to drive or operate a motor vehicle without a license as well. So definitely, if you're driving without license, that is prohibited by law. So it became wrong because there is a law prohibited it. It was not inherently wrong, inherently evil at the beginning. Okay? Those acts that are inherently wrong from the beginning are mala in se. And those acts that became wrong only because there is a law that prohibit it from committing, that is what we call a mala prohibita crimes. So, under the special laws are mala prohibita. Under RPC are mala inse. Take note of that. Next classification, we have organized crime and professional crime. Organized crime, there are three elements we have to remember about organized crime. One, there is a criminal activity. Okay, they are committing criminal activity. Secondly, their activity and that persons or committing criminal activity has an organization, a very developed, very structured organization, and their organization, their criminal activity are only for the pursuit of profit. So they're performing illegal activities, they have a very structured organizations, and they have their illegal activities are intended for, and the primary objective is for profit. That is what we call organized crime. It becomes organized crime because they have an organization, very structured, very developed organization, but the objective of the organization is by doing criminal activity by and for the reason of gaining profit through their illegal activities. While on the other hand, professional is that these are person who have used committing crime as their occupation or primary source of their money. So meaning to say that will be his livelihood. That will be his occupation. For crime is being committed by this person as their livelihood, source of money or source of his livelihood or occupation. And this particular person has that skills and knowledge of committing a criminal act. So he possesses that particular skills and knowledge in the commission of the criminal act because that he's committing a crime serve as his occupation, serve primarily as his source of money. That is what we call organized crime and professional crime. Next one would be the white collar and the blue collar. Simply, if we define this very simple, white collar and blue collar, what is being what should be the thing we have to remember? It's about who committed the particular acts. Okay. So, what does it mean when we talk about who committed the criminal act? Because we can call this as a white collar crime if the person committing the act is those who occupies position in business and in the government. So he can commit the crime because he is in the position in the business or in the government for that matter. So for example, he occupies the position, is the manager, or he's the in charge, he's the head of the business or in the government for that matter. So that is what we call a white collar crime because the one who committed it has a position in both business and in the government. That is what we call white collar crime. And white collar crime was being defined or coined by Edwin Sutherland. Remember, Edwin Sutherland was the acknowledged dean of the criminology. While the other hand, when you talk about blue collar, these are who committed it. These are being committed by people in the lower class. And remember, blue collar crime is said to be those are those are what we call crimes in the streets, or that is being usually committed every day. We hear this one every day being committed by ordinary individuals. So white collar, those who occupy position in the business or in the government, and blue collar are the ordinary or the lower class individuals. Now, another classification is the enterprise crime, and enterprise crimes is part of the white collar crimes because these are the illegal tactics made by business to profit in the market. So, in that matter, there is a competition, especially in business, on that matter. So, they are using illegal ways, illegal tactics, just to gain more profits than the other business organization, and that is what we call illegal enterprise crime. That is part also of the white collar crime. So in order to gain more profit, sometimes other business companies are using illegal tactics just to gain more profit than the other competitors in the business industry. Expressive crime, so basically crime without purpose. I know you have heard this one. There are many cases in some of the other countries that, for example, shooting many individuals, but shooting at them is without their purpose. However, there is also a difference between a hate crimes on that matter, because he have done shooting somebody because that's one way or another to express his hate on the other. However, expressive crime is without purpose. He just keeps shooting at them, he just killing at them without that particular purpose. That is what we call an expressive crime. So enterprise crime used by the business establishment, businesses, legal tactics that's just to gain more profit than the other. And expressive crime is being performed by somebody without a particular purpose. One example is killing individuals without a particular purpose. Okay, that ends with our second part of our discussion. Most and the topic that we're discussing today is more on crimes and its classification. Now, stay tuned as well for more video uploads, because I'll be uploading another discussion on topics of criminal and victims. So that will be the third part of my discussion on that matter. So if you like my discussion, please then share, follow, subscribe both my Facebook page and my YouTube channel. I hope to see you soon following my video uploads, and that might help in one way or another in our field of endeavor. Thank you, and once again, good evening to each and everyone.